Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com, and I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for today's show? What a dampy Thursday we have here. Raining outside, it's muggy, it's wet outside. Oy vey. But on that note, I will entertain you guys for the next, 56 minutes or so. 57. It's a packed and loaded show. I feel like this is one of my more loaded shows we've had in a while. Welcome to the 65th show here today. Hope you all are staying safe. I love you all during this coronavirus pandemic. Staying safe, watching cartoons, playing video games, whatever else you like to do. And it appears maybe the month of May, since today's the last day of April 30th, we finally are going to have some hope in the immediate future. Hopefully May's the month that we're all finally back outside doing what we love. June, maybe sports will be back soon. Breaking news for today. The Cincinnati Bengals released Andy Dalton, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. Dalton drafted by the Bengals in 2011, second-round pick out of TCU. Andy Dalton was in the playoffs 4 straight years, 2011 to 2014. Bengals also made it in 2016, but A.J. McCarron started that game, and they almost won that game. And then, the Cincinnati basically blundered that game away against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a choke job in itself. Andy Dalton had a 2-11 record last year, completed 314 of 528 passes, completed 59.5% of his passes for 3,494 yards, 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He was benched for a couple of games in favor of rookie Ryan Finley, but we saw how that went. And then they drafted Joe Burrow, number 1 overall. So Burrow's obviously going to be the starter, and Ryan Finley will be the backup. And then Andy Dalton, throughout his career, has completed 2,757 of his passes for 4,449 yards, 62 completion percentage, 31,594 yards, 204 touchdowns, 118 interceptions. And then it's 204, 209. I might have forgotten to close the 9 on that one. And then he's also rushed for 32 times for 734 yards, and also caught 1 pass for -4 yards. That was 32, 73, and 4, and then 1 and -4. That was last year. This year, in his career, 394 carries on 1,221 yards and 22 touchdowns, and 2 of 14. So, receiving. And in his postseason career, 0-4 record, did not win a single playoff game, 88 of 158, 55.7 completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions, 873 yards. Okay, so where's he going to go? Jacksonville to reunite with Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator there, because Gruden was the offensive coordinator when he was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, and then or maybe the New England Patriots, but then yet again, Jarrett Stidham and Max Kellerman made a good point this morning about Andy Dalton on First Take about Andy Dalton. The take is maybe he'd be a better fit than Cam because Andy Dalton releases the ball quick pass, short game, and get it out to the slot receivers. So it's probably Jackson. He's good enough to be in the league. So is Cam Newton, but Andy Dalton will be somewhere else. Probably Jacksonville, if I had to guess. He's not going to go to Chicago because they traded for Nick Foles. So, now that's off the table. And obviously New England having Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham as the only quarterbacks and signed 2 undrafted rookies. And Dalton would upgrade it unless Belichick wants to ride on Stidham. And Jacksonville gives competition for Gardner Minshew, and plus that's a winnable enough division. So, on to my next phase of things. I will get back to the NFL later on this show. So what I'm going to do right now is talk about the NHL. So in the NHL, and the NBA for that matter, but I'll talk the NHL first here. So the guidelines for phase 1 with the lifting for self-quarantine was supposed to be today. But the NHL, the public relations, released a statement yet last night. This was last night. I wrote all this down before I came on the show today. It says, following the NHLPA return to play committee's meeting today, and in line with guidance provided by medical experts and national and local authorities, the NHLPA and the NHL issued the following statement regarding the continuing pause in the 2019-2020 season. Despite numerous reports and speculation over the last several days, the NHL and the NHLPA have not made any decisions or set a timetable for a possible return to play scenarios. Given recent developments in some NHL clubs, local communities, we are now looking ahead to a phase 2 of the transition period that would follow the currently recommended phase 1 period of self-quarantine, in quotes, by player and hockey staff. The precise date of transition to phase 2, during which players might return to small group activities in the NHL club training facilities, remains undetermined. However, provided that conditions continue to trend favorably and subject to potential competitive concerns as between disparity situated markets, we believe we may be able to move to phase 2 at some point in the mid to later portion of May. Specific guidelines governing player and hockey staff activity would be provided at that time. In the meantime, we expect players and hockey staff to continue to adhere to the recommended guidelines put in place when the season was paused on March 12th. The Return to Play Committee will continue to meet regularly. So, sounds like the NHL's got something cooking, and it sounds like they have a plan. When play resumes or not remains to be seen. It feels like on the 30th of April, we should be in the second round, getting ready for some sort of game for the conference semifinals in either the West or the East. But yet here we are, trying to figure out when we're going to see hockey again, because every single day that I see on television the commercial on the NHL Network of the Stanley Cup should have started on May 8th breaks me into pieces. When I see Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, and Sidney Crosby come across their messages, and so does Nick Foligno, the captain of Columbus Blue Jackets, and it tears me apart every time I see it, and the song Better Days by One Republic. But I'm not going to sit here and mooch and complain today, because there's yes, 2020 may be the worst year we've ever had in our lives. And I'm not going to debate that. But I'm going to say there is some light supposedly at the end of the tunnel. And I'm just going to say this quickly. Don't listen. Just only listen to your governors at this point. That's all I have to say. Don't listen to the national media or other stuff. The only people you got to be listening to at this point is worry about where you live within your state, and that's it. That's the only political thing I'm going to mention, because it kind of ties into the thing over here. So, with the NHL and trying to get back into game action, I personally think they're coming back July 4th weekend. That's when I think it's coming back. The NHL needs to figure out where in the stadiums, how many arenas they're going to use. If they're willing to use 4 arenas for each division, go for it. 2 weeks, I cannot see them completing 82 games unless it's for a money factor. You got to complete at least 75 or 76. And I'm fine with that amount of number, as I mentioned on this show probably thousands of times already. But let's let's please get at least a 75-76, 2 weeks from July 1st, July 2nd, up to the 18th. And then the following Wednesday after the 18th, you start the Stanley Cup playoffs. The format you want to choose, be my guest, but it better only involve 16 teams, and it better be at least a best of 5 in each one. And no, don't give me this nonsense this morning that we're expanding the playoffs to 18 to 20, 22, or 24. Because none of those nonsense is going to float my boat. That's unacceptable, and I don't care that we are in a crisis that this is the case. The NBA ain't going to feel sorry for the 9 through 15 teams if they jump straight into the playoffs. And the NHL shouldn't feel sorry either for the rest of the teams. Because let me say this. You cannot adjust the playoff standings and the seedings based off the coronavirus. As I've said, you have played more than enough games. You played more than enough. As I've said in the past, we're not in November, we're not in October, and we're not in December, January. February might have been a little bit of a cutoff. But then yet there might have been some more time and maybe some more room to grow. But March, we have played enough games. We played enough, and I understand the money part. If you want to make money based off just the postseason, fine. But please, please do not expand the postseason. As I read a report on CBS.com sports.com this morning, and I'm not here for it. I'm not here for this 18, 20, 22, 24 team postseason. Not here for it. And the NHL is willing to play as deep as in October and wait to delay into December and next year, and so is the NBA for that matter. And speaking of the NBA, they're looking to play in Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And here's my one question, because I was thinking about this. My question is, so I saw somewhere that Disney World is really going to close up most likely until 2021, where no one's going to be able to go on rides and enjoy themselves on a summer vacation. But we are going to sit here on the 30th of April and say, oh, it's okay for the NBA to use the facilities just to get basketball games done. Yes, I know money talks. And yes, I know the NBA needs to complete its season so it doesn't lose money. I get it. But isn't Disney World losing money to begin with? Well, I guess it's a way for them to make money because money talks. So we're going to treat professional athletes kind of a little bit different here than we would for the regular Disney World customers. Which I guess I kind of understand. But I would guarantee you that some of these guys would love to see these guys on a vacation. And there's probably going to be the rule of having no fans inside the arenas, because that's probably what's going to happen. And I don't feel, here's the thing about the NBA that I'm not sold about as like the NHL. The NHL has a plan, and it seems like they know when they want to resume. The NBA is just floating idea after idea out there, and Adam Silver and the public relations has not made an announcement to its fans like the NHL has. The NBA just keeps floating ideas out there, and it keeps leaving fans and players and coaches and owners in oblivion. They have no idea what they're doing right now, except for the fact that they want to open facilities to players. But the thing is, their own teams inside the NBA are pushing back. I'm not seeing any pushback from NHL teams about opening facilities. I mean, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that with the NBA more than I'm seeing that with the NHL. And that's why the NBA it seems like to me, I feel like they're going to cancel rather than continue the season. I don't see basketball coming back for one of the reasons I've said. There is way too much contact. Way too much contact in these sports when it comes to basketball, because they're touching the same ball. They're basically breathing right on top of each other. And I'll get to baseball in a minute. And with hockey, someone sent me an interesting text message the other day that in hockey, yes, you have the concerns about a locker room and spacing yourself, but what does hockey have that basketball and baseball doesn't? Hockey actually has a full face mask where you don't have to breathe on players. You know, in college, or someone breaks a jaw, or a facial injury, you're wearing a full mask. Maybe the NHL needs to look into that instead of just having the visors just for the temporary period of the remainder of the 2019-2020 season. And Zdeno Chara, Sidney Crosby, and some other players have obviously worn it before. And they're no strangers to it. And I'm sure Zach Werenski and a lot of other players have as well in their college days. And I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem for some NHL players to wear. Back to the NBA. No plan in place. Everyone breathes on top of each other. And I'm just going to sit here and be like, I would be surprised if basketball returns. And I know a close friend of mine messaged me yesterday hoping for optimism, and I actually forgot to respond to him. If I did respond to him, I don't remember. But I'll probably get back to him about it today at some point. And I know he's one of the biggest NBA fans that I know on this planet, because he just loves talking to me about it. So, I just think the NBA doesn't seem to have a sense of direction, and they need to get their act together. That's just my opinion on it. Because if they don't because now this is the turning point and where we might see stuff opening up. If the NBA does not have an act together by May 15th, say goodbye to the season. And it's going to be curious to see how the paychecks roll out. That's going to be one case. And I understand why the NBA would go to Florida, because Florida considers sports as an essential business, and they're starting to open up. So that's what I have to say on the NBA matter for right now, and we'll see where this goes. So I'm moving on to Major League Baseball, and once again, just like the NBA, the MLB continues to flirt and float with a bunch of ideas in how they could progress in the 2020 season. So, in the MLB, here is how it's going to work. Potentially. So, is it possible that they're going to start in June, late June, early July, and I'm sure they're not going to want to start any later than the 4th of July, due to the fact of it feels America's pastime. This is America. We want to feel patriotic. This is great. This would be great for baseball. You know, the whole USA. After basically making the coronavirus curve go down, we could chant USA at ballparks and a bunch of basically other fun stuff, and we can enjoy summer. Even though we're not going to be at ballparks this summer watching the sport of baseball, nonetheless. But, on the other hand, we will enjoy baseball in this, and we can enjoy watching baseball, and maybe they could shatter records this year. So the division, they wanted to do Grapefruit League and Cactus League only, and I wasn't a big fan of that, but I guess it would work. This one I'm a bigger fan of, except the one caveat to it, and here are the divisions. So here are the divisions nonetheless. The West Division will be... The West Division will be the Houston Astros, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Los Angeles Angels, the Oakland Athletics, the Seattle Mariners, the San Diego Padres, the San Francisco Giants, the Texas Rangers, and the Colorado Rockies. So it's basically the entire NL West and the entire AL West in the division. Central Division, the Chicago White Sox, the Chicago Cubs, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Atlanta Braves, the Detroit Tigers, the Kansas City Royals, the Minnesota Twins, the Cleveland Indians, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Milwaukee Brewers. And the East Division, the Philadelphia Phillies, the New York Mets, the Washington Nationals, the New York Yankees, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Miami Marlins, the Boston Red Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Baltimore Orioles. So, here's one caveat that I have to this. Why is Atlanta in the Central, and why is Pittsburgh in the East? Now, I understand how close Pittsburgh is to the Philadelphia and Baltimore and Washington and New York, fine. But you're also pretty close to Chicago and Cleveland and Cincinnati. Just stay there, and Atlanta's more closer to Miami and Tampa Bay and Washington and Philadelphia rather than Chicago and Houston? No. That doesn't make any sense. The only thing I would flip is Atlanta and Pittsburgh. Other than that, I think the divisions are fine. And they would probably play somewhere around 100 games. And here's what you do for the postseason. You could just centralize those divisions for the regular season. And here's what you do for the playoffs. Number one, for the postseason, what you do is, my first thing is, you would take the National League East, Central, West divisions, and in the American League as is. So you would realign those divisions as if it was just those divisions for the regular season instead of the combinations. Then you would have the record of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, the division winners make the playoffs, and the team with the top two records, non-divisional, obviously play in the wild card game, because by the time October comes, it might be okay for travel. Number two, what you do is forget the 14-team playoff. You have 1 through 3, the West, Central, and East division winners are your 1, 2, and 3 seeds. 4, 5, 6 do not play in the wild card game. The 4, 5, and 6 seeds, along with 1, 2, 3, do not play in the wild card games. The 10th best for 7th best record play as one wild card game, and the 9 versus 8 matchup plays as the other wild card game. The 10-7 winner plays the 2 seed. The 9-8 winner plays the 1 seed. And then you would have 6 versus 3, 10/7 versus 2, and 1 divisional bracket, and 9/8 versus 1, and then 5 versus 4 in the other side of the divisional bracket. Yeah, the wild card game still is 1 divisional series best of 5, and then you still have in the championship series in the World Series 7. So if we had the normal format as I suggested, I still think what I had before the coronavirus shutdown, I still think Cleveland, the Angels, the Yankees, the Twins, and the A's would still all make it. In the National League, I had the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Reds, the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks. That's what I had in the National League. But if we take a look at it from a different perspective, The West Division would be won by the Dodgers. That goes without saying. The East winner would be the Yankees. The Central winner, I actually think, would be the Twins. Just a little bit over the Braves. So, who is going to fill out the last 6 spots? Who do I think would fill out the last 6? I think, 1, 2, 3. So, I got 7 spots. I believe the Oakland Athletics would fill out a spot. The Los Angeles Angels would fill out a spot. The Arizona Diamondbacks would fill out a spot. That's 3. I think the Atlanta Braves, the Cleveland Indians, so St. Louis, Cleveland. Sorry, Atlanta and Cleveland, that's 4, 5. Oakland 6. Arizona 7. Angels 8. And 9, 10 would be, I'm probably Tampa Bay. And I'm going to go either the Phillies, Mets, or Nats. That would come down to 10. And I guess the Philadelphia Phillies would benefit from this as well. So I would not have. So sorry, let me go through this one more time. I'm actually going to check this down. So my division winners is Atlanta in the West. In the East is the Yankees. So Atlanta in the Central, the Yankees in the East, and in the West is the Dodgers. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then Arizona 4, Angels 5, Athletics 6, Indians 7, Twins 8, Rays 9, Phillies 10. There I go. So obviously, I'm knocking out basically just the Reds here and swapping them out for the Braves in this situation. So that would be fun. I'm not sure who would be like a 10-7 or a 9-8. I could figure out that order, I guess, another time. But that would be real interesting to see in all baseball, just like in all hockey, like you see 1 through 16. Because I really, truly believe that would be fascinating in the sport of baseball. I'd be so fascinated to see how this would be. And in the East, the Marlins, the Orioles, the Pirates, those teams would get beat up on real badly, and sometimes Toronto too. Our strongest divisions, obviously, to the West, the Astros, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, the Angels, the A's. And by far, the Mariners would absolutely get plummeted in that division in the Central. The Tigers and the Royals, they're probably automatically eliminated before the season even begins. They would also get basically plummeted on all season long. That's not even a question. I mean, and you got like the Mets and the Nats and the Rockies, and the Astros, and the Cubs and the Giants and the White Sox and the Padres and the Indians and the Reds. And the Brewers would be some very interesting, potentially, the Brewers and the Reds and the Brewers would potentially be some interesting teams. So now I'm moving on to the NFL finally. So in the NFL, there are potential plans for the 2020 season as well. So they are very well planning to start the season on time. There were reports that they may begin the season in the middle of October due to the coronavirus. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, no. I hope not, but I would get it. The first week of the NFL regular season is expected to begin on Thursday, September 10th, but the first full Sunday of the regular season is expected to be on Sunday, September 13th. If it is pushed off, I would expect the Super Bowl LIV date to be pushed off until Sunday, February 28, 2021, instead of the original February 7th date. There will also be no Pro Bowl this season, and there will also be no bye weeks nonetheless if the season is pushed back. So it would be really interesting to see how teams would play without a bye, and how teams without a bye before the Super Bowl nonetheless. My dad and I talked about this before, how teams would do. So then, that it's actually happened before. So that would be really interesting to see what happened nonetheless. This is one of the craziest time periods ever. But NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is good during these times nonetheless, and he has led by example throughout the coronavirus times nonetheless. I thought he's done a terrific job nonetheless, I hope. And I've called him out several times for other leadership issues. But this is the test that he has passed with flying colors nonetheless in this situation. Great job with the virtual draft. I think he's done a tremendous job. So the NFL teams, top 10 NFL teams after the 2020 NFL draft. Number 10, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is set to roll into the future. They have drafted edge rusher A.J. Epenesa in the second round of the NFL draft. And I just really believe, out of the University of Iowa, I believe he's a steal. And I really believe that he's going to produce in Sean McDermott's system right away. Sean McDermott has clearly shifted a culture in Buffalo with them making the playoffs the last 2 out of 3 seasons. And with Josh Allen leading the way, he's at quarterback for this team this season nonetheless. And with them throwing to Stephon Diggs, nonetheless, after they traded him from the Minnesota Vikings, since Allen is the leader, the heartbeat, and the heart and soul of the the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is ready to take that next step nonetheless. Their pre-draft ranking was number 9. Number 9, Denver Broncos. Denver is so ready to turn the corner. They have not made it to the playoffs since the 2016 postseason, and they won Super Bowl L against the Carolina Panthers by a score of 24-10. That was in the Peyton Manning days nonetheless. That was Peyton Manning's last season in the NFL. Got benched for Brock Osweiler. When Manning came back, Manning basically played like a lame duck, because that Denver Broncos defense basically carried him. And now they have Drew Lock, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Deshaun Hamilton, Cortland Sutton, and some other key pieces in the offense like Melvin Gordon II and Philip Lindsay in the backfield. Jarrell Casey, who they traded for from the Tennessee Titans, basically for a 7th round pick, is going to anchor this defense with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. So Vic Fangio, it's going to be his second season, and Pat Shurmur is going to be in his first season as the new offensive coordinator, nonetheless. And I'm real curious to see how his offense is going to really, really look with Denver. Pre-draft ranking number 10. Number 8, the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings improved in the NFL draft big time with drafted wide receiver Justin Jefferson and cornerback Jeff Gladney in the first round. Instantly made his team better. And so did drafted offensive lineman Ezra Cleveland in the second round. And Dalvin Cook, who is the heartbeat and the heart and soul of the Minnesota Vikings offense in the backfield. And he's also a terrific leader, because without him, that backfield is absolutely nothing. Because then you got to establish a running game in the NFL. I mean, you really have to. It's set to play action for guys like Kirk Cousins and against guys like Ert Smith Jr. and Kyle Rudolph wide open. Because the Minnesota Vikings have one of the best rosters in the NFL. And personally, right now, I think they're the best team in the NFC North. And even though, I didn't know they didn't win the division last year, but I felt like they had a better roster and a better team than Green Bay, even though, yeah, it's all about matchups, even though Green Bay swept them in the regular season, and Green Bay beat them twice. And that's one of the reasons why Minnesota might win the division this year, because of tension in Green Bay. Then, I'm curious to see how else the Minnesota Vikings are going to do in high expectations this year. And hopefully Kirk Cousins doesn't fold. Mike Zimmer's a great head coach. And that's how I feel. So I remember speaking of Mike Zimmer, I was talking to a Texan friend of mine who was a Minnesota Vikings fan the other day. And he told me he was like, I don't know, he's working and meetings and stuff. And I told him, I said, I told him as a joke, I go, Mike Zimmer is ripping you in the meeting room, and he started laughing. And he's like, sure thing, I'm already getting yelled at. So the Vikings are going to be really good next year, and and we'll see how they are. And the pre-draft ranking, they were not ranked. Number 7, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints will have one potential last shot at winning the Super Bowl this season. It will be their last shot in trying to win the Super Bowl in the Drew Brees era, nonetheless. They signed Jameis Winston to a one-year deal after he decided to lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Taysom Hill is going to be the slice and dice for this football team this season. It's funny because now in ESPN fantasy leagues, he's listed as a tight end and flex. I don't know how many of you guys actually play fantasy football. I do. I'm curious if actually Yahoo is going to use it. And if they do use him as a flex, I'm curious to see how high he gets picked. And I expect 7th round pick Tommy Stevens out of Mississippi State not to make the roster. But hey, you never know. They may keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster. And they might use Tommy Stevens as another slice and dice kind of player. He's very athletic. He can run. He can pass. And something interesting I saw about Taysom Hill this morning. Do you know the thing about, I don't know how many of you guys watch Fox Sports or the show First Things First, Undisputed, or Colin Cowherd, The Herd on Fox Sports 1? What they like to do is they like to do blind comparisons. So they use Taysom Hill as he's only completed 7 passes in his career, and he has a passer rating of like 46. So they showed a player who has a passer rating, or is a completion percentage of 58% in his career, and has completed like 12 or 13 passes. You want to know who that player is? That was revealed in the blind reveal? Johnny Hekker, the punter for the Los Angeles Rams. The punter for the Los Angeles Rams. Yes, I said it. Has a better completion percentage than Taysom Hill. Very interesting. And they also have Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas, the Saints. And that's going to be a solid wide receiver duo. Keep an eye on rookie tight end Adam Trotman, 3rd round pick out of Dayton. And Jared Cook to be a solid tight end duo this season. Number 6. Well, what were the Saints ranked before they drafted? They were ranked number 8. Number 6. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This team is going to be flying high this season, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They are going to be tough to stop on a week-to-week basis. The question will be, is Tom Brady actually old, or does he have some game left in him? Rob Gronkowski is also going to potentially tear it up after he retired from the NFL for a season. Could the reunitation be an example of them being old like Dwayne Wade and LeBron James were with the Cleveland Cavaliers after they were with the Miami Heat? Or will it be like when Peyton Manning left the Indianapolis Colts and played for the Denver Broncos? Now, that's a good question. My brother and some other people have believed that this is the case, that Tom Brady is going to rejuvenate. I know Colin Cowherd's one of them. I know Nick Wright is not one of them. And they were talking about comeback player of the year this morning on that show. And they're like, comeback. Maybe Tom Brady should be in the comeback player of the year because of how bad they had. They were talking about Ben Roethlisberger, J.J. Watt, Rob Gronkowski. So, we'll see. And they also extended O.J. Howard. They gave him the 5th-year option. And Cameron Brate's also on the roster. And the defense also needs to work with Todd Bowles and O.J. Howard. And Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians, nonetheless. Offensive line, man, Tristan Wirfs, who was selected 13th overall out of Iowa, will upgrade the offensive line this season. And the team has major boom or bust potential for the 2020 regular season, nonetheless. Pre-draft ranking, number 7. Number 5, the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee is going to be a dangerous football team once again this season, nonetheless. They have Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry back. They drafted a running back in the 3rd round named Darrynton Evans from Appalachian State. They also drafted cornerback Christian Fulton in the 2nd round from LSU and offensive lineman Isaiah Wilson from Georgia in the 1st round. General manager John Robinson has a knack for talent. Mike Vrabel will have his guys ready to go for the 2020 season nonetheless after they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game by a score of 35-24 last year. And I think this team has a lot more potential than people give them credit for. My brother Ben's like, they're going to be like the Jacksonville Jaguars were. No. This Tennessee team is locked and loaded. And they got a more proven head coach in Vrabel than I think Doug Marrone. And plus, I think Ryan Tannehill is a better quarterback than Blake Bortles will ever be. And they were pre-draft ranking number 4. Number 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles will be locked and loaded this season once again. And they should run away with the NFC's title. But it will remain to be seen because the question is going to be, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? And congratulations to Carson Wentz and his wife on a beautiful baby girl. I would just like to mention that before I get into my next thing about Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz is the Rock. And what I mean by Rock is that Carson Wentz is a leader. He's a boy. He's what he means a lot to the city of Philadelphia. And a lot of people are panicking. Oh, Carson Wentz! Oh, he's injury prone. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's that. Stop it. You drafted Jalen Reagor, which I don't agree with. And you also have Marquise Goodwin. But, okay, and you also trade for Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers. You already got the receiving corps. And you got Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey, and Deshaun Jackson. And we'll see how Jalen Hurts does in this offense. They want to use him like a Taysom Hill, nonetheless. So they're in win-now mode because this team seems to be a little bit older, with Wentz being the leader that he's the heartbeat and the heart and soul of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm just curious to see how the Eagles will be. They should run away with it. Giants will be better, but they're not there yet. I think the Cowboys took a step back. The Redskins are not ready. And this team's pre-draft ranking was 5. Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are going to be a really good team once again this season. It would not surprise me if they were back in the Super Bowl next season nonetheless. San Francisco is going to be locked and loaded, especially on the defensive side of the ball. General manager John Lynch decided to draft 2 quality players and defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk in the 1st round of the NFL draft, nonetheless, even though I don't agree with those picks, really. They believe in those guys, good for them. Jimmy Garoppolo should not have any excuses this year, nonetheless. Pre-draft ranking number 3. And they're still going to use a lot of zone schemes with running the football. Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens continue to be impressive at all levels in this organization. Baltimore has a knack for finding talent in the later rounds of the NFL draft. Until Lamar Jackson can't choke in the playoffs and win it all, then they will continue to be labeled as chokers, nonetheless, despite the talent that they have on their roster. And a Ravens fans texted me this week that I believe in Lamar Jackson, that he'll win us a Super Bowl. Yeah, we'll see what happens when time rolls on because, yeah, you still got to worry about, Kansas City, Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs. Yeah, we got to deal with those guys. Aha, yeah, real nice and funny. Because you ain't getting past them as long as Patrick Mahomes is ruling the day in the AFC. And the Ravens were ranked pre-draft number 2. Number 1, Kansas City Chiefs. This team is locked and loaded once again. They have an embarrassment of riches on the offensive side of the ball nonetheless. This team's trying to win another Super Bowl with the salary cap that they're dealing with in this situation nonetheless, because you're going to have to pay Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who Andy Reid watched 2 hours of film on. This guy's like, hey, this guy might be even better than this Brian Westbrook running back that I had when I was a head coach with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Brian Westbrook, who's now appearing on shows on like Philadelphia Radio and Fox Sports 1 from time to time. And they also got, let's see, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman Jr. and Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins. I mean, they're just loaded. The pre-draft ranking number 1. So just quickly to recap my top 10. Number 10, the Buffalo Bills. Number 9, the Denver Broncos. Number 8, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 7, the New Orleans Saints. Number 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 5 was the Tennessee Titans. Number 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. And number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. So in my last 10 minutes on this show here, I know it's a little bit early for this. And obviously by the time that August rolls around, I'm going to be dissecting into this more. And the thing is, the NFL schedule is coming out no later than May 9th. So maybe then I could kind of dissect it and kind of play around with it when the schedule gets released. But until the schedule gets released, this is how I feel about my early predictions for the 2020 season. Now that we have the draft take place, free agency is basically all but done. Basically, the offseason's basically over with personnel-wise. Now you just got to figure out, okay, when stuff is over, when are we going to go back to the facilities? When are we going to start maybe OTAs? They started virtual offseason programs already and virtual workouts, and strength and conditioning coaches want to see what you're going to do. So let's see how this is all going to play out, potentially for the NFL 2020 season. So the NFC East, right now, number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2, the New York Giants. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 4, the Washington Redskins. Let's see, Eagles are basically stacked. The Giants got a lot better, and I think there's a culture shift changing there with Joe Judge, who came over from the New England Patriots. Dallas Cowboys. You lose Travis Frederick. Yes, you get CeeDee Lamb and have a stacked skill players on offense. But how's Dak going to be in a contract year? You have no defense. You're going to maybe lose a lot of 40, 35 games. And the Washington Redskins are basically offensively challenged. And Dwayne Haskins is not the guy. The NFC North. Number 1, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 2, the Chicago Bears. Number 3, the Green Bay Packers. And number 4, the Detroit Lions. Minnesota Vikings, best team in that division. Chicago will be better off with Nick Foles than Mitchell Trubisky. And they didn't pick up Trubisky's 5th-year option. My dad's like, whoa. They didn't pick up his option. Well, we know what that means. Number 3, Green Bay. There's going to be a potential shift in power. LaFleur and Rodgers, the relationship struggles are going to be real this year. And number 4, the Detroit Lions. Yes, I think they drafted well, but it's Matt Patricia. He's probably going to get fired at the end of the year. And they're still the Detroit Lions, and it's on his last stand. Now moving on to the NFC South. Number 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 2, the New Orleans Saints. Number 3, the Atlanta Falcons. And number 4, the Carolina Panthers. Tampa Bay stacked on offense. Brady, Gronk, Godwin, Evans, Brait, Howard, their offensive line, and Keyshawn Vaughn and Ronald Jones might do the trick. I think the rookie Vaughn is going to have a big year. Saints, they'll be good. They'll find a way to make the playoffs. They have enough talent. The Atlanta Falcons, that's a team that could win the division, or that's a team that could finish in last. And the Carolina Panthers, they'll be good defensively. They'll be okay offensively. But they're going to realize the monsters that are ahead of them in the division, and they're going to realize that they're in a rebuild mode, and Christian McCaffrey is the best player on that team. NFC West, number 1, San Francisco 49ers. Number 2, the Arizona Cardinals. Number 3, the Seattle Seahawks. And number 4, the Los Angeles Rams. 49ers, stacked. Arizona Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins, Isaiah Simmons, Josh Jones. They got better in the offseason. They're going to be more explosive on offense. Maybe a little bit better defensively. Seattle Seahawks, 2, Russell Wilson dependent. It's going to catch up sooner or later. Number 4, the Los Angeles Rams. I don't like their offensive line. How's Jared Goff going to be? Cam Akers. Brandon Cook. They don't have Brandon Cooks. They got Robert Woods still. That's the team that might finish in last. AFC. And they also got Bryce. They also drafted a tight end. And in the AFC East, number 1, Buffalo Bills. Number 2, New York Jets. Number 3, New England Patriots. Number 4, Miami Dolphins. Buffalo Bills, this is Josh Allen's time to shine. And for Sean McDermott to run the division. Number 2, the New York Jets. I mean, how good they were 7-9, played much better when Sam Darnold came back. But how's Adam Gase going to be as a head coach? Number 3, New England Patriots. They're going to ride with Jarrett Stidham. Bill Belichick's going to maybe win 8 games the most this year. And number 4, the Miami Dolphins. They're still rebuilding. Tua Tagovailoa is probably going to sit the full year, which means they're going to still be in rebuild phase and probably get themselves in good draft position next year. Ryan Fitzpatrick, they still got a ton of picks next year. And I know they took some risk on some of their draft picks, like Austin Jackson, Noah Gabeni. They drafted a ton of offensive linemen. I was surprised they didn't go with a lot of receivers, unless they feel comfortable with the wide receiver room. And then into the AFC North, number 1, Baltimore Ravens. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns. Number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals. Baltimore, obviously, Lamar Jackson on the roster. And they're loaded. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. Look, Baker, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Austin Hooper. They're loaded on offense and defense. Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. Myles Garrett, he's a key component, the heartbeat and heart and soul of the defense and a leader. He just got to keep his emotions in check. Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger, who is basically the heartbeat and the heart and soul of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. You just got to say how it is. They need him, or they're going to be offensively challenged again. And you got Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, James Washington. They always like drafting receivers. And I think this is it for I think this is it for 2 people in Pittsburgh this year. Juju Smith-Schuster, and I know Steelers, and I know I've said this for the last couple of years, and no, I'm not hating. But this is the truth of reality, and I believe he'd be picked up in 1 minute. In 1 minute if he was off the market, and I don't think the Steelers would get rid of him. But Mike Tomlin, if everyone's healthy and if they don't make the playoffs, especially with expanding to a team, I know he got passes for the past couple of years, but I thought he was going to get fired after the Jacksonville loss 45-42 in that AFC divisional round. And you got to be like, okay, when is this going to happen? But is it maybe only because of Belichick they're making him potentially look bad? I mean, Mike Tomlin is arguably maybe the second best coach next to John Harbaugh in the AFC. Why am I pushing on him so hardly? Maybe I need to ease up on Tomlin a little bit. And then number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, it's a new day in Cincinnati. the sun is shining. I don't know if it's shining in Cincinnati or not today, but I know it's not here in Baltimore. Nonetheless, in Cincinnati's ready for a new day. Give them a couple of years. T. Higgins and Logan Wilson they drafted, and then Joe Burrow's real good. AFC South, Tennessee Titans 1, Indianapolis Colts 2, Jacksonville Jaguars 3, Houston Texans 4, Tennessee loaded. Indianapolis will be better. Jacksonville and Houston are both going to stink this year. AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs 1, Denver Broncos 2, Los Angeles Chargers 3, Las Vegas Raiders 4, Kansas City Chiefs obviously stacked. Denver Broncos will be a lot better, most improved team in the NFL. Chargers aren't going to be there because of mediocre quarterback play, Tyrod Taylor, and Justin Herbert won't be ready, and the Las Vegas Raiders are going to take a step back because of Jacobs. Not of Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, and their drafting. Playoff teams for the NFC, number 1, San Francisco. 49ers, number 2, Philadelphia Eagles. Number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 4, Minnesota Vikings. Number 5, New Orleans Saints. Number 6, New York Giants. And number 7, Atlanta Falcons. And playoff teams for the AFC, number 1, Kansas City Chiefs. Number 2, Baltimore Ravens. Number 3, Tennessee Titans. Number 4, Buffalo Bills. Number 5, Denver Broncos. Number 6, Cleveland Browns. And number 7, Indianapolis Colts. So there you have it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of time here. Thanks for tuning in to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend as well. I'll be back on the air at the same time on Monday. I will also go over some more NBA, NHL topics, maybe some more 2020 NFL draft topics, and NFL topics as well. Maybe just MLB, maybe more merchandise. We'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe and be well. I love you all. So, take care, everybody.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Thursday, April 30th, last show of the week of yours truly, Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only, Philly Pete, and we are live on 12 Ounce Sports Network and Zingo TV. This show, as usual, is sponsored by MyBookie. Live sports may feel on hold to us all, but that's not the case with MyBookie. They've got tons of action for you to get in on the fun over at mybookie.ag. Whether esports or overseas baseball is your thing, they've got you covered when you use the promo code 12ounce sports. That's 12OZ sports, all one word, when making your first deposit. They'll match your first deposit up to $1,000, which is incredible. Don't feel like watching baseball at 2 o'clock in the morning? Once again, I'm either sleeping or I just don't have time for it. MyBookie has you covered with an online casino to scratch that itch. So whether it's blackjack, roulette, 3-card poker, whatever it may be, mybookie.ag has all your needs. So make sure when you sign up for when you go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code 12ounce sports. That's 12OZ sports, all one word, today for free money when making your first deposit. Also, if you're looking to freshen up your look for the summer, you have to check out 12 Ounce Sports' new line of clothing. We've got everything from shirts and sweaters to beach towels and phone cases, which are phenomenal. Find the online store here today at 12OZSportsRadio.com under the Our Store tab. There you'll find a wide variety of clothing items, colors, and sizes that suit your style, like Ric Flair himself. That's 12OZSportsRadio.com under the Our Store tab. Also, Seat Giant as well. Once again, once this pandemic is over and we can have fans allowed back in stadiums, please ensure to go into Seat Giant for the best view in the house, in the arena, in the stadium. Seat Giant, the way to go. And last but not least, Zingo TV. When signing up for an account with Zingo TV, please ensure to use the promo code 12ounce. That's 12OZ. Once again, all one word. And all you ladies and gentlemen out there could be live streaming all these amazing and phenomenal shows on the 12 Ounce Sports Network that we can provide to you and give you as much entertainment as we can, including yours truly, Pete's Power Plays. So, Zingo TV, make sure you get an account there. So yesterday we spoke. I had Gina on the air yesterday. We spoke about the Bad Boys for Life movie, which was incredible. I highly recommend it to everyone out there. Thank you all for tuning in. A lot of feedback via DM in regards to how great the movie was. A lot of good reviews from people that were reaching out to me, and it was a great show. It was a great show. So, and here we are. So Tuesday, and like I said, Tuesday I spoke about the NFL draft and the outcome and the Eagles pick, and a lot of more situations are happening in the world of the NFL. So Andy Dalton just got released by the Cincinnati Bengals today. So we'll see where he goes. You have a few options out there at quarterback. You still have Cam Newton, who's still looking for a home. You also have Joe Flacco, who to this day I don't think is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. His injuries obviously has caught up to him, so I'm not sure where he's going to be. And then you have Andy Dalton, who just got released. So New England could go either way here. I feel like Andy Dalton might be the choice here for the Patriots. And Cam Newton as well. I mean, he's another person that the Patriots could look into. But once again, it's not one of... to me, I just don't think that he fits into the New England scheme at all. So that's why I think Dalton is more of an obvious choice for the Patriots. Maybe Cam Newton somehow goes to... obviously Jacksonville is not in the cards, even though Fournette wants him there. So I don't see him going to Jacksonville. A couple other potential spots could be the Broncos to maybe see where they are with Drew Lock. I know he's a fresh face, but I'm hearing a couple sources out there saying that Cam Newton is linked to the Broncos. Not sure how accurate that is. To me, I just don't see that happening. Maybe even the Vegas Raiders seems like an obvious choice as well. I mean, Derek Carr and Mariota are not the needs, at least for me, in Vegas. But again, these kids are young, so you have to give them another shot. So Cam Newton's still up in the air. Again, we haven't seen much value to him in the last couple of years, so it's only a matter of time. But I just think that an obvious choice here is definitely Andy Dalton to the Patriots is an obvious choice for me. So, but we'll see. Time will tell. But today on the show, I'm going to talk about, for the first half of the show, I'm going to talk about the episodes 3 and 4, The Last Dance. Now we get involved with Dennis Rodman, who is one wild character, man. He's incredible. Loved everything about him. And now you see why Draymond Green is trying to play an act to the one and the only worm himself, Dennis Rodman. So, episodes 3 and 4 review of The Last Dance, which premiered on Sunday. And the second half of the show, looks like probably the last 10 minutes of the show I want to go by. Gina will be returning to talk about Westworld season finale that airs this Sunday at 10 p.m. on HBO. It's going to be a movie, basically a movie episode, because usually the season finales of Westworld are about an hour and a half, hour 45-minute shows. So, but long and behold, here we are, The Last Dance, episodes 3 and 4, which premiered obviously over the weekend on Sunday. Basically, it was teased all week that Dennis Rodman's personal story is basically where he eventually fit into the Bulls. And, he served as a core piece for the Detroit Pistons, as we all are aware of. So, basically served as a focal point for that team. So, here we are. Through the first 4 episodes, there still hasn't been a ton of footage from the 97-98 season, which, of course, is supposed to be the central theme around this entire story that's built, obviously. So, it's been mostly backstory so far. It's okay. It's fine. Obviously, we're just getting started with this documentary. But we're almost halfway through, and you kind of figure, the back half is where we're going to see all the action. So this is just a build-up for the second half of The Last Dance. But obviously we're waiting for everything that's exclusive, behind-the-scenes footage, because it's going to happen. But once again, this will happen probably in the last 3 or 4 episodes of the documentary. So, couple big things here. Dennis Rodman was absolutely wild. There is a bit of footage that shows the Worm himself after the legendary Vegas vacation. More on that later on. In the weight room, he appears to be resting after or during a workout, drinking out of a Gatorade cup. And just before he puts it into his mouth, he turns to the camera, raises the cup slightly, and says "kamikaze." Then he downs whatever's inside the cup. So basically, he's probably drinking while he's working out. Obviously, kamikazes, which we know is a shot at the bar. So, and like I said, the worm himself, Dennis Rodman, was quite the fan in terms of that aspect and drinking and working out. So takes care of that, and ever since I saw that in an advanced screener, I've not been able to stop thinking, honestly, was Rodman just hydrating with booze during a workout? I mean, he mentions kamikaze, and to me, obviously, I think he's drinking while he's working out. So, hey, if you want to do that, by all means. We know he was a crazy character on this team. So, but he could have been joking. Rest aside, you can't see obviously what was inside the cup, but the fact that you can't dismiss the possibility that a professional basketball player was drinking during a workout in plain view where cameras were on him is beyond incredible. Um, Imagine some player doing that today. That just would not work out. With any team. But that's how Robin was. He was wild. He was crazy, and that's how much leash the Bulls gave him. Which these episodes aim to basically depict about him. So Robin's so-called vacation was covered. He basically went to his coach in the middle of the season, straight up requested PTO to go to Vegas with the one and the only Carmen Electra, who we know those two dated on and off. But I'll tell you, man, Robin was quite the hero. By all accounts, first-class teammate. Jordan called him one of the smartest guys he's played with. Regardless of how crazy his hair is and how crazy his lifestyle is, dressing up in drag, dating one of the hottest celebrities out there. But Scottie Pippen said Robin fit with the Bulls like a hand in a glove. I mean, that's just how it is, and I agree. We know how he was ruthless. He was absolutely ruthless, and every game he had a different style of hair color. Let's be honest here. But the first 2 months of the season, Phil Jackson said Dennis is what held everyone together, and again, I agree. I mean, when things were not looking right, Dennis came in and helped each other out, helped the team out. When there was a fight, he would be right there front and center to get anybody's back. So now you see why you have a little comparison to Draymond Green on the Warriors. Now, a couple years ago when they had that nasty team, with healthy Steph Curry, healthy Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, that Draymond would be the one to step up in front, just like how the Worm did. So, but however, whether Rodman was able to hold himself together was a different story. That was always a touch and go situation. Rodman, knowing him and his lifestyle, sleeping in cars, with guns, complimenting suicide. His brain functionality and his mentality was just not there as the other side of the outside world of Dennis Rodman. So it's just a different sort of nature for him. He had two sides. Basketball and then his own life. So a lot of people don't know that he did have a crazy dark side of his life. Just like drinking while he's working out, sleeping next to rifles. Suicide talk, all dark reminders that Vegas partying and his hoop earrings and dyed hair were just many ways to cover for a pretty fragile, vulnerable, depressed person. So that's when everything was speculating that the Worm was depressed. But you could thank basketball for making him who he is during that time. You hear about his upbringing, and it makes sense. By his own admission, living in the streets for 2 years, every day he had a chance to go down the wrong path. He thanks basketball for helping him out. Could have been a drug dealer. He could have been dead. As he says, he could just sit down and watch people do it, when it comes to drugs, and basically walking out the door every day knowing that maybe something was not going to happen. And here you go. He picked up a basketball and he started playing, and he got lucky from some college, and college reached out to him saying, Dennis, you want to play for us? And there you go. From a kid on the streets to playing college basketball and to a very successful team, the Chicago Bulls. I mean, Dennis was really who he was, and it really illuminates the underdog foundation of those Bulls teams. Jordan obviously was the chosen one, the GOAT, but then you have John Paxson, Steve Kerr, Ron Harper, Bill Wennington, Luke Longley, and of course Tony Kukoc, where you can just basically down a long list of Bulls contributors that not find a single All-Star appearance among them, which is unfortunate. But Horace Grant came to effect, and Bill Cartwright, just to name more, they have one each. But even the great Phil Jackson was getting so much applause about this. And but you go into the second episode. Basically Pippen in episode 2 of 4 was a ball boy for a Division II college and basically finessed his way in, onto the team, which is great. So Rodman went from the streets to a junior college basketball player, and Pippen as well was a ball boy for a D2 school, started playing. And there's one thing that Rodman said in the opening of episode 4, however, that I had to take issue with is, you've got the greatest Michael Jordan, the great Scottie Pippen, the great Phil Jackson, but if you take me away from this team, do they still win a championship? I don't think so. So here we go. Let's remember, though, however, this might have been when the juice was flowing too much for Dennis Rodman, but we have to recall that the Bulls won 3 straight titles before Rodman even joined the team. That was when he was on the Detroit Pistons. So Rodman can talk, but I think either way, they still would be fine without him to win titles. So next up, the shot with an assist from Lenny Wilkens. Here we go. So everyone remembers Jordan's game-winning shot to take out the Cleveland Cavs in the 1989 playoffs. We know that quite well. And in that frame was poor Craig Ehlo, helplessly trying to fan this spacewalking freak disguised as a basketball player. But we know that he was guarding Michael Jordan to begin with. It's impossible. It was a mistake, Jordan says, because the guy that played me better was Ron Harper. Harper, for his part, wasn't happy about the assignment either. So Harper should have been on MJ at that time. And, Ehlo was basically saying to his coach during timeout that he has it. Harper was pretty disappointed. So he was really upset about Lenny Wilkens not having him cover MJ because he was going to drain the shot regardless. But it was also interesting that Jordan reminded us that in those days, teams played division opponents 6 times in the regular season. Bulls were 0-6 against Cleveland that season before they met in the playoffs. So that's what happens. You get swept by the Cavs. Bulls will easily beat you in the playoffs, no problem. Everyone had picked the Cavs to win, obviously because of the success against the Bulls. But Jordan, of course, the GOAT himself, motivated every slight person, every player on that team thrown his way, made sure to call out the writers who predicted a Cleveland win. On his post-game interview, basically looking back and telling them, 30 years later that he is a championship grudge holder, is Jordan. And, we even today, people, even current players like Kevin Durant, Jordan is the best in the league. That's why he is the GOAT and always will be the GOAT in general. So, that's Jordan for you. And, the Jordan rules weren't that complicated. You would think that with a defensive strategy that inspired an entire book, it basically is somewhat different than your average defensive approach, but it really wasn't. A couple of Jordan rules. On the wings, we were going to push to the elbow, but you didn't want him to basically drive the baseline. Otherwise, you're toast. Another one was that he was on top when we're going to influence him to his left, but when you got the ball in the low post, your obvious choice here is to basically trap him. But again, you would think it's simple, but it's obviously not. But so, in other words here, the defensive strategy from a basketball standpoint basically consists of pushing a great scorer to his weak and or in the direction of help and double teaming him in the post. But again, it just doesn't happen. This kid is going to drain every shot, and any possible way and functionality that Jordan can do it, he is going to make it. So, and that's what happens. So, you got to, with that, that's the real spirit of the Jordan rules. You got to beat the living, what the hell out of him. So, and it just doesn't work. It just does not work. So, the Bulls lost to the Pistons, though, in the 89 and 90 Eastern Conference Finals. We know the Pistons were loaded those couple of years. And in those days, superstars just didn't bolt to join other superstars to the current day now, where all you see now is, players going to the superstar teams, that they wanted just to win a title, Kevin Durant. But, again, they couldn't get the championships they desired on their own. So they went back to work, tried their luck against next season. Chicago obviously triumphed over Detroit in the 91 Conference Finals before winning their first ever NBA championship. Jordan's career comes full triangle in these episodes. Doug Collins was hired as the coach in 1986, basically calling Jordan a breath of fresh air. He designed an offense to support the way he wanted. In other words, he gave Jordan the ball and basically told everyone else to get the hell out of the way, which is true. Jordan's game winner against the Cavs in '89 was asked in post game to Collins, what the play design was on the final call, and basically it was just get the ball to Jordan, have everyone just have Jordan isolate and let him do it on his own. Obviously a terrible strategy, but it wasn't getting the Bulls past the Pistons, who had their ways of quote unquote defending Michael Jordan. But here comes Phil Jackson, hired to replace Collins. After the Bulls literally just made it to the conference finals, they release Collins, they get Phil Jackson. He didn't believe in handing Jordan, basically control the offense, and Jordan obviously was skeptical about it. So, but again, it was just a matter of time. The very infamous triangle offense was basically in the system when Jackson was hired. More ball movement. Pippen got more involved into his first true forward position. When he got onto the set into the new scheme, Jordan obviously is reluctant at first. Found life to be a lot easier when defense couldn't just focus on him. So then you have all the players getting more involved when Phil Jackson was coaching for the team. So here we go. Through the lens, you just see the impact of Jackson's coaching on Steve Kerr, who played on the Bulls teams. Eventually, he instituted a similar offense, when he replaced Mark Jackson at Golden State. So again, fans had a hard time adjusting to it because we know at the end here, everyone was revolving around Michael Jordan, and fans just wasn't having it. So Phil Jackson said, we have to open up this team more and be accepting to Scottie Pippen and all the other players they have on that squad to help contribute to the Chicago Bulls. So it's kind of like how it worked out with Steph Curry and the Warriors with Steve Kerr, and like a different Jordan, the Bulls, it worked. Warriors won first of 3 championships in Kerr's first season at the helm, and the Bulls also won first of their 6 titles in Jackson's second season. So that's just saying a lot right there. And on a side note, to end this conversation about The Last Dance season 3 or episode 3 and 4, Jordan still hates Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons. Simple as that. He still hates them to this day. Probably the greatest grudge holder we'll ever see. And he never even wanted Isaiah Thomas to be on the Bulls at some point, and the hate just is personal, even to this day. And, you'll hear that from time to time, but, it's, to me, it's great. And for the record, Thomas admitted way back in '91, just for a few months after the incident happened, that walking off the court without shaking the Bulls' hand was the wrong thing to do and very unsportsmanlike. So there you have it with that. And lastly, Michael best Magic and proves that he's human. So that's basically how I will end it on that. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The second half of the show, I want to bring in none other than the queen on the ice herself, Gina Tucci. Gina, welcome back. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad. So what we're going to talk about real quick for the last 10 minutes is the season finale of Westworld. The episode 7 was kind of a... first off, what'd you think about episode 7?
It was very confusing. You know what I didn't know at the end, when after their fighting scene, and then Dolores hits a button on the machine and they both go disabled? Like, did that only disable them because they were in close proximity? Or, like, why didn't Bernard and the other guy turn off? What was his name? Ashley Stubbs?
Stubbs, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't turn off.
Yeah, I think...
Because the next scene you see them, and I'm like, oh, okay, you'll see them fall down. And then I was like, all right, I'm back to square one.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, too. I mean, maybe in close proximity, maybe they have something that's chipped inside of them that we don't know of that triggers them to shut down and the others not to. I mean, we know that William created Stubbs and Bernard as well as Dolores, but maybe there's some sort of way that he gave her, or they gave them some sort of strength that Dolores doesn't have. I don't know. It was a very confusing episode as well to me. Mainly, it was just all about the fight between Dolores and Maeve. Yeah, you want to elaborate on that?
It was good to finally see them come head to head because I felt like the season was building it up.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that, and I liked how Maeve was in her fighting outfit. That was pretty cool too. What else did I like? I liked how the drones weren't involved too. So it's not only they were fighting each other, they were trying to avoid the drones. And when Dolores got her arm cut off, that was pretty cool. I was wondering how they were gonna manage that in the next season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And then here we are. Caleb, gets a little backstory of him trying to of them basically erasing his memory.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's speculation that Sirach's long lost brother is.
Yeah,
Caleb.
I was confused about that because he mentioned his brother, and then we saw a character that was obviously mentally ill. So I figured that was his brother. I didn't think that it could be another brother, but then I was like, wait a minute, are they talking about him being a brother? So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's going to turn out.
So speaking of Aaron Paul, how do you like his character so far as Caleb?
I like him as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I loved him in Breaking Bad. I know you didn't see it, but it was really very good. But I don't know. I like it. I like him as an actor. I don't know if I like this character. Like, I don't know if I would like this character if it was somebody else. I don't know how. I guess I'm not seeing how it kind of fits into the season.
Yeah.
I'm just having trouble taking him and putting him and making sense of everything in the season, as with everything else in the season. So.
Yeah, I think that's. I honestly, besides the fight in this episode, which we get some futuristic artillery, Dolores having a Call of Duty sort of weapon,
Mm-hmm.
gun, a rifle. Obviously, that was the most entertaining part about the episode. Basically, I felt like it was in some sort of in Mexico. I mean, just the way it was set up. But to me, Aaron Paul, I mean, I just think that once the season's over, we're going to see a lot more of him in season 4. Honestly, I mean, nothing against him, but I don't really like his character at all. They're not really selling him to me.
They're not really showing
Yeah.
how he fits, or at least I'm not grasping
Yeah.
how he fits in and to all this. And you know what? We mentioned this the other night, Pete, that it had a homecoming feel to it, like that show
Yeah.
Homecoming with Julia Roberts. How those
Yeah.
men came back from service and they were trained to erase their memory and go back. So remember, we had a little
That's right.
hint of that. So if you haven't seen Homecoming, I think it was only like 1 or 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It's with Julia Roberts. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
good.
That's another one. I think that's on Amazon Prime show. I think there's only 1 season so far, but the second one is confirmed. So that's another show. But yeah, we were mentioning that too. They eat this meal that basically is supposed to, erase their memory from everything. But to me, I just think that he's been introduced so late, in the part of this season now that I don't know what to expect from him going forward. I don't think he fit the character. I don't think they needed him to be in this season as well, because you don't see a lot out of him. We just see him locked up in a chair, seeing all of his memories, knowing that he is the one that kills everybody, and his part, and his friend who's Kid Cudi, and you just see. Just people basically talking to him, repeating word after word, oh, you killed your friend, and they just want it erased so that he doesn't remember everything, and he does. I mean, he knows at the end of the day, like, this is what they did to him. But to me, if we had a human character outside the park this whole time, leading up to this meeting with Dolores, the two becoming thick as thieves and so forth, I get it, but it could have worked. But to me, it just does not work whatsoever. So, like I said, in the meantime, we'll see.
And you know how, like Dolores was always saying about getting out of here, of Westworld, that is, it's kind of like, why didn't she maybe predict that she would know somebody or be connected with somebody on the outside? Like, you never really heard her talk about, for as well as they know each other on the season, there wasn't really any foreshadowing to that. So
Yeah, I mean,
One of many questions.
yeah, I have a couple too. I mean, was William the same as the Man in Black, just in different timelines? I mean, now we're realizing who he is, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to think of with that. I mean, you're probably just as confused as I am in that part. Another one was Bernard really just a host that Ford created to remind himself of his old partner Arnold? You know, what do you think about that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just really hard to wrap my head around.
It is. I mean, all these twisty, turny timelines. You know, it's what makes the show fascinating. But again, I'm just as confused as the first two seasons, and I had so many questions that the third season is really not helping the situation
to explain
out
anything
whatsoever. They're going way off the map here, and I mean, it's just tough. It's great to watch, but it's just tough to understand what the hell is going on in Westworld. You know, it makes it fascinating for sure, but it's also the great unexpected writing and performances that, you know, that's why we're hooked on it. You know, we just don't know. Ford, you know, obviously Anthony Hopkins, you know, we don't know where he's at. Is he going to show up in the finale? You know, he was basically a man of mystery and contradiction, and The Maze obviously was a mystery that captured audiences' imaginations as it did Dolores and Black Hat William. I mean, even myself after the first season, and even the second season, they were like, "Oh, the maze this, the maze that."
Yeah, they really didn't even say it's this, it's not that, it's something else, or it's like I feel like they just kind of dropped it, and I feel like, and that was such a central part of the show. Yeah. You know, like I get that they're kind of insinuating that it's, I guess, your own personal journey, but they really didn't. Nobody really kind of made that clear. So
yeah, this season kind of just threw me off the tracks with this Westworld in general. Nothing compared to season 1 and season 2 at all. I mean, like Gina said, the maze. Like, what's the point of it now? It was hard. It wasn't even mentioned in this season. Also, you know, it's and also the park too. They left behind the maze and they left behind the park. Like, you know, we get it. You know, Sirach's so-called company took over Delos, but still, like, they never processed how it actually happened. So between the park being left behind and the maze being left behind, you know, that's what made the show great, in my opinion. What do you think of, like, how do you feel? The same way?
I do, because I was, you know, thinking like where, like, this maze looks pretty intricate. Like, where could it be? Could it be in Westworld? Could it be in the real world? Is it in the office building? You know, where all the offices are? I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. You know, we just have to prep ourselves for hopefully a non-disappointing season finale. Again, this whole season in general is pretty disappointing. The whole new characters. Aaron Paul's character that I'm not a fan of whatsoever. Just too much going on, and we get involved with new people that weren't even mentioned to be, you know, basically fair warned from season 2 about Sirach. I mean, new names that we're not used to is obviously not on my mind, and I'm not holding out hope for this finale. So, you know, how do you feel before we conclude?
I feel that the season finale will be very good, but I don't think it'll answer anything.
Yeah.
And then didn't this season take like 2 years to make? And,
exactly.
And who knows when the next season will be made.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, time will tell, but other than that, that basically concludes the Thursday, April 30th episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only Philly Pete, alongside of me, the one, the only Queen on the Ice herself, Gina Tucci. Gina, anything else you would like to say to the fans?
Just wanted to say, have a good weekend, everybody, and stay safe, and call your loved ones.
There you go. So there you have it. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy as well. We are hitting the month of May tomorrow, so we can only look at the better things ahead of us. So I hope everyone has a great weekend, have a great rest of your Thursday, and I will be back on Tuesday. Take care, and talk to you then. See ya.